Whenever disturbances such as wildfire, volcanic eruption, or a storm happen, it leaves destruction to the lives of the people and to the environment as well. Good thing, the environment has its own mechanism of rebuilding or regenerating itself. It happens in an orderly manner, and we call it ecological or natural succession. Ecological succession is the gradual and continuous change in the composition of species that are occupying in an area after a disturbance happened. There are two types of ecological succession. We have primary succession and secondary succession. Primary succession happens when an area is left with just bare rocks with no soil. So say for example, if a volcanic eruption happens, the area will be covered with lava, and when lava cools, the area will be left with just rocks. So what kind of organism will be able to live in an area like that? Good thing there are lichens. So lichens is a symbiotic relationship or a combination of algae and fungi. The algae produces food in the form of sugar for both of them by the process of photosynthesis, and the fungi holds up the water and prevents it from just slipping on the rocks. For a long time, lichens will continue to grow and occupy the area, and as they occupy the area, they are going to break down some of the rocks and some of them are going to die. The combination of the broken down rocks and the dead lichens are going to become humus or thin layer of soil. Because of this thin layer of soil, it's going to promote the growth of non-vascular plants such as mosses. And as mosses and lichens continues to occupy the area, they're going to produce a thicker layer of soil which will now promote growth of bigger plants such as grasses. These organisms, the lichens, mosses, and grasses, are what we call pioneer species. These species are the organisms that are first to occupy an area after a disturbance. As the succession process continues, these pioneer species are going to continue to grow and inhabit the area, and as they do so, the soil will become thicker as well, making it more inviting for other plants. So intermediate species such as pines and shrubs will now come to the area. Now, as bigger plants occupy the area, it's going to create shade to the smaller plants. So, as bigger plants continues to grow in number, smaller plants that are occupying the ground are going to decline. So, mosses and grasses will decline in number as the trees grows in number. After hundreds of years of this process, the area will be occupied by bigger, more taller trees, and the area will become diverse and more stable. At this stage, this is what we call a climax community. In secondary succession, the same process is going to happen. The only difference is that it's not going to start with bare rocks. It's going to start with at least some soil or even some small plants. So say for example, if a forest fire strikes an area, it's not going to be left with just rocks. It would be left with some soil or even some smaller plants that survived the forest fire. With this, instead of primary succession, secondary succession will occur. And the process, as I've said, is just the same until a climax community which is diverse and stable is achieved. But in real life, succession doesn't happen smoothly, like from bare rocks that are being occupied by lichens to being occupied by mosses with shrubs, and being occupied with some trees and some bigger trees to become a climax community. It doesn't really happen just easily that way. This is because disturbances can happen anytime during the process of succession. So say for example, an area that is undergoing succession is just composed of some pine trees or other intermediate species. Destruction can happen, like say for example, if a storm strikes the area, these trees can fall down and they can restart again from where they're left. This process of disturbance and regeneration during the process of succession or in between the process is what we call cyclic succession. This cyclic succession will continue to happen if the area will be always struck by, say for example, a typhoon or other disturbances, and they won't be able to reach a climax community. There are three mechanisms of succession that was proposed by different naturalists or ecologists. These are facilitation, inhibition, and tolerance. In facilitation, it states that organisms that are currently occupying the area sort of makes the area more suitable for the succeeding or the invading species. Like when the lichens creates the soil, so it would be more suitable for the mosses to occupy the area. In inhibition, on the other hand, organisms that are currently occupying the area doesn't make the area more suitable for the invading species. Instead, they are making it unsuitable for them. Say for example, some organisms may make the soil more acidic so other organisms cannot live in that area. Pine trees shed off nutrient deficient leaves so that the soil will be nutrient deficient as well, and other invading organisms or plants will not be able to grow properly. Lastly, in tolerance, it states that organisms that are currently living in an area doesn't affect invading organisms. It doesn't cater for it or facilitate its coming, or it doesn't also inhibit the coming of other organisms. So again, succession is the process of nature's rebuilding or regenerating itself by means of continuous and gradual changes of species that are occupying in an area after a disturbance. This process will continue until it becomes more stable and more diverse and becomes a climax community. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you learned something from this.